The wooden bench had long since grown cold beneath him, but Daniel Mercer didn't move. He couldn't. Not yet. Rain began to fall in gentle sheets across the hospital parking lot, each drop catching the amber glow of the streetlights like tiny falling stars. Daniel watched them absently, his hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles had turned white. He'd been sitting there for 3 hours now, maybe 4, he'd lost track somewhere between the sirens and the silence that followed. The accident kept replaying in his mind like a broken film reel. One moment he was checking his blind spot, the next there was the sickening crunch of metal, the scream of tires, and a small blue sedan spinning across the intersection. His sedan. His mistake. He'd looked down for just a second, 1 second, to silence his phone. That's all it took to change everything. The paramedics had assured him everyone would be fine. Minor injuries, they said. But Daniel couldn't leave. How could he go home, crawl into his warm bed, and pretend that somewhere in that building behind him, a family wasn't dealing with the consequences of his carelessness? So he sat, despite the EMTs clearing him, despite the police finishing their report, despite his own car being towed away hours ago. "Are you waiting for my mom?" The small voice cut through the rain's steady rhythm. Daniel looked up to find a boy standing before him, no more than 7 or 8 years old. He wore a blue hoodie with a cartoon dinosaur on the front, and he clutched a partially eaten granola bar in one hand. His brown eyes were curious but not afraid, studying Daniel with the unfiltered directness that only children possess. I'm sorry. Daniel managed, his voice hoarse from disuse. "My mom," the boy repeated, pointing back toward the hospital entrance. "Are you waiting for her?" "Lots of people wait on these benches. Sometimes they fall asleep out here because the chairs inside aren't comfy." Daniel felt something crack in his chest. "What's your name, buddy?" "Marcus." The boy took a bite of his granola bar, completely unbothered by the rain now starting to soak through Daniel's jacket. "I'm 7 3/4. My mom says the 3/4 part is important." "It is important," Daniel agreed, a sad smile crossing his face. Is she here because of the accident?" "The car accident earlier today." Marcus nodded, suddenly less animated. "Yeah, she's getting X-rays on her arm. Grammy's with her, but Grammy said I was bouncing too much in the waiting room, so she gave me money for a snack and told me to run around outside for a bit." He paused, studying Daniel more carefully now. "Were you in the accident too? You look sad." The simple observation hit Daniel harder than any accusation could have. "I caused it, Marcus. I was the one, it was my fault your mom got hurt." He expected the boy to run, to shout, to call for help. Instead, Marcus tilted his head thoughtfully and sat down on the bench beside him. The movement was so casual, so trusting, that Daniel felt tears prick at his eyes for the first time since the collision. "Oh," Marcus said softly. Then, after a moment, "Accidents are called accidents because you don't mean to do them. That's what Mom always tells me when I break stuff." Daniel let out a shaky breath. "This is a bit bigger than breaking something, Marcus. I broke Grammy's special vase last month. The one from her mom." She cried. Marcus swung his legs, which didn't quite reach the ground. "But she forgave me," she said. "Holding onto mad feelings is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick." The wisdom of that statement, delivered so matter-of-factly by a 7 3/4-year-old, made Daniel's throat tighten. "Your Grammy sounds like a smart lady." "She is. She makes really good cookies too." Marcus finished his granola bar and carefully folded the wrapper into a tiny square. "Do you want to come inside? It's warmer. And there's a really cool fish tank in the children's section." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" How could Daniel explain the weight of guilt, the feeling that he deserved to sit in the cold and the rain? How could he make a child understand that he was conducting his own private penance? "Your mom probably doesn't want to see me right now." Marcus considered this. "Well, she doesn't know you're out here. But if you asked her, I bet she'd say it's okay. Mom's not really a mad person. One time, someone bumped our car in the grocery store parking lot and drove away, and she just said, well, everyone makes mistakes. Then we got ice cream." "Did you get ice cream today?" "Not yet. But the day's not over." Marcus smiled, revealing a gap where his front tooth used to be. "Grammy says there's always time for things to get better." Daniel found himself studying this remarkable child, This little boy who'd just offered forgiveness on behalf of someone who hadn't even authorized it. There was something almost otherworldly about his kindness, his complete inability to hold grudges or harbor resentment. "How's your mom doing, really?" Daniel asked. "They think her arm's not broken, just hurt pretty bad. She kept asking if the other driver was okay." "That's you, right?" Marcus looked at him expectantly. "Are you okay?" The question shattered something inside Daniel. Here was this child, whose mother was getting X-rays because of him, asking if he was okay. "I don't deserve your kindness, Marcus. Grammy says kindness isn't about deserving. It's just about being." Marcus stood up and held out his hand. "Come on. If you meet Mom, maybe you'll feel better. And you're getting really wet." Daniel looked at that small, outstretched hand, weathered from play, sticky probably from the granola bar, offered without hesitation or judgment. In that moment, Marcus represented something Daniel thought he'd lost in the impact: hope. The possibility of redemption. The radical power of forgiveness. He took the boy's hand and stood. The hospital's automatic doors whooshed open, releasing a blast of warm air that smelled of antiseptic and coffee. Marcus led him through the lobby, past the fish tank he'd mentioned, and yes, it was impressive, to the emergency wing's waiting area. An elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair looked up as they approached. Grammy, Daniel assumed. Behind her, a woman with her arm in a temporary sling was signing paperwork at the desk. Even from behind, Daniel could see the cuts and bruises on her exposed shoulder. "Marcus, honey, who's your friend?" Grammy asked. Before Marcus could answer, his mother turned around. Her eyes met Daniel's, and he saw recognition flash across her face. He braced himself for anger, for accusations, for everything he deserved. Instead, she smiled, tired and pained, but genuine. "You're the other driver. They told me you weren't hurt. Thank God. Thank God." Daniel's voice cracked. "Ma'am, I am so sorry. I looked away for 1 second, and She held up her good hand. "You looked away. I've looked away. Every driver has looked away at some point. The difference is that most of us get lucky." She walked closer, studying his face with the same curious directness her son had shown. "You've been sitting outside, haven't you? The officer mentioned you refused to leave." Daniel nodded, unable to form words. "That's incredibly kind. And completely unnecessary." She reached out and touched his arm gently. "We're okay. Bruised and shaken, but okay. And I'm going to heal. So please, forgive yourself. Because I already have." Those last 5 words broke through the dam Daniel had been holding back. Tears streamed down his face as Marcus's mother pulled him into a one-armed hug. Grammy came over to pat his shoulder, and Marcus squeezed his hand tighter. Standing there in the hospital waiting room, embraced by the family he'd hurt, Daniel understood something profound. Humanity at its best isn't about never making mistakes. It's about how we hold each other when mistakes are made. It's about little boys with granola bars who offer wisdom beyond their years. It's about grandmothers who teach that kindness isn't about deserving. It's about mothers who choose grace over anger. Later, as Daniel finally headed home, with Marcus's mother's phone number programmed into his phone and a promise to check in on her recovery, he passed the bench where he'd sat for hours. It looked different now, less like a place of punishment, and more like the spot where a little boy had asked a simple question that changed everything.